My name is Mabel Rose Thompson, and I am 103 years old. And you won't believe what they put in our food these days. It's truly shocking. For 40 years, I have eaten the same 4 foods every single day. Don't you dare scroll away from this. I have something important to tell you. It was a different time then. Things were much simpler, or perhaps they just seemed that way when you look back. We may do. They said, you're not eating the right things, you're not doing this and that. But I knew.
Welcome to today's deep dive. I want you to imagine something for a second.
Okay.
Imagine completely ignoring every single piece of modern nutritional advice your doctors ever gave you.
That's a bold start.
Right. No tracking macros, no hunting down exotic superfoods, no avoiding cholesterol. And as a result of that sheer stubborn defiance, imagine outliving 7 of your primary care physicians.
Wow. It is quite the premise to start with.
It really is.
And for those of you listening right now, you are probably all too familiar with the feeling of being constantly bombarded.
Oh, absolutely.
By the latest complex diet apps, biohacking trends, contradictory health studies. I mean, it can be exhausting just trying to figure out what to eat for lunch.
Which brings us right to the subject of our deep dive today. We're looking at the transcript of a massively viral YouTube video from a channel called Real Talk with Time.
Right.
The video features a woman named Mabel Rose Thompson. She is 103 years old.
103.
Yes. And she has eaten the exact same 4 foods every single day for the last 40 years.
It's a fascinating piece of source material. Just to set the stage for you, our mission today is to unpack Mabel's radical simplicity. We're going to look at how a daily routine completely devoid of variety, combined with a very specific psychological and spiritual mindset, has led to a century of vibrant life.
Exactly.
But we need to be incredibly clear up front. Our goal here is not to medically endorse this highly specific, frankly unorthodox diet. Mabel is a sample size of 1.
Right.
We're looking at a classic case of survivorship bias here. Her routine is an anomaly, not a medical prescription.
Definitely.
Rather than telling you to eat exactly like she does, we want to analyze the incredible intersection of nutritional consistency, mental health, and longevity that her story presents to us.
Her story is really anchored in pure defiance. She actually opens the video by warning the interviewer that what she's about to say will make every nutritionist in America lose their collective minds.
I can imagine.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Starting with that medical defiance. She tells this rather colorful story about a Dr. Patterson.
Ah, Dr. Patterson.
Yeah. Back in 1985, he told Mabel her cholesterol was dangerously high and she needed to stop eating eggs immediately.
Standard advice for the time.
Right.
Yeah.
He put her on a strict color-coded low-fat diet. Green foods were safe, red foods were forbidden. Mabel says he treated her like one of her first-grade students who couldn't grasp basic instructions.
Her follow-up to that interaction is sharp.
It is brutal.
She notes that Dr. Patterson is currently residing in plot 244-7 at Forest Lawn Cemetery.
Yeah.
He passed away at 71 of a massive stroke, while she is 103, still standing and still frying her eggs.
Exactly.
Now, from a medical standpoint, Dr. Patterson was following the standard cardiology guidelines of the 1980s. But Mabel uses his passing to set the tone for her entire philosophy, which operates in direct opposition to established medical consensus.
Let's look at this forbidden 4-food menu she built for herself. Food number 1 is 3 whole eggs, fried in butter.
And she's very particular about that.
Extremely specific about the preparation. No margarine, no chemical non-stick spray from an aerosol can. She insists on real butter from a cow.
Great. And absolutely no egg whites. She actually mocks the modern fitness trend of ordering egg white omelets, saying the yolk is where all the life is.
Yeah, that's her core argument there.
Doctors told her for 40 years she was playing Russian roulette with her heart. But she points out she's been pulling that trigger 3 times a day since 1963.
She offers an analogy here that really captures her worldview. She compares throwing away the egg yolk to buying a brand new car and immediately throwing away the engine.
That's a great way to put it.
It is. She views the egg as a perfect, self-contained food. Literally everything a baby chick needs to develop into a full-grown animal.
Yeah.
It is an argument for whole foods in their most natural, unaltered state, pushing back against the idea that we should deconstruct our food into isolated parts.
That philosophy flows right into food number 2 on our list. 1 pound of 80-20 ground beef. Every single day.
Every day.
For anyone unfamiliar, 80-20 just refers to the ratio of meat to fat. 80% lean meat, 20% fat. She cooks it in a cast iron skillet with nothing but salt. No seasoning blends or anything.
Nope. There are no elaborate 47 ingredient recipes from around the world. Just beef and salt.
Simple.
When physicians warned her about the links between red meat and cancer, she countered with her own family history. Her grandmother ate beef daily, her mother ate beef daily, she has eaten it daily, and none of them developed cancer.
We have to keep in mind the genetic component there.
Oh, for sure.
Her family history suggests a strong genetic predisposition for longevity regardless of diet, but she frames her reliance on beef through this very poetic description of a cow as a miracle machine.
She does. She describes how a cow takes sunshine, soil, and grass, things human beings cannot digest, and turns them into human strength.
Right.
She points out that her body is literally built from the iron, B12, zinc, creatine, and carnitine that are naturally found in that ground beef. Things like creatine, which our muscles use for energy production, and carnitine, which helps with metabolism.
Yeah, these are essential compounds.
She argues people are paying $50 a bottle at supplement stores to recreate what is already in the meat. Meanwhile, she observes people eating processed cereal out of a cardboard box featuring a cartoon character and wondering why they feel completely depleted by age 35.
It is a stark contrast she paints, and her third food continues that theme of practical historical grounding. 6 small red potatoes, boiled with the skin left on.
She refers to them as energy from the ground. She notes that potatoes kept the Irish alive through brutal winters, they kept soldiers moving across Europe in World War II, and they kept her own family alive during the Great Depression when there was literally nothing else in the pantry.
True survival food.
What's funny is she actually tried to quit eating them once.
Really?
Yeah, in the late 1990s, the low-carb craze hit, and she gave it a try. She said she felt like she had been hit by a cement truck for 3 straight weeks, threw in the towel, and went right back to her potatoes.
Then we arrive at her fourth, and certainly most controversial, staple food.
Oh.
Raw milk, unpasteurized, unhomogenized milk. She drinks a tall glass of it with every single meal and claims she has been doing so for 97 years.
97 years.
For context, unhomogenized means the fat hasn't been mechanically broken down to mix evenly into the liquid, so the cream rises to the top. Unpasteurized means it hasn't been heated to kill off bacteria.
Right.
Public health agencies strongly advise against raw milk due to the severe risks of foodborne pathogens like Salmonella and E. coli.
Mabel is well aware of those warnings, and she dismisses the fear of bacteria entirely. She argues that the human gut fundamentally relies on bacteria to function.
That's her perspective on it.
Exactly. From her perspective, the milk she drinks is a living food, packed with natural enzymes, probiotics, and fat-soluble vitamins. She is highly critical of store-bought pasteurized milk.
Yeah, she doesn't hold back.
She points out that heating milk to extreme temperatures turns it into what she calls Frankenstein's monster and dismisses it as nothing more than expensive water.
Looking at the daily schedule she maintains, the rigidity is remarkable.
It's basically mathematical.
It is. Breakfast consists of 3 eggs, 2 potatoes, and a glass of milk. Lunch is a ½ pound of ground beef, 2 potatoes, and a glass of milk. Dinner is exactly the same as lunch, just adding the remaining 3 eggs.
Right.
If you do the math on that, it perfectly accounts for her daily total of 6 eggs, 1 pound of beef, 6 potatoes, and 3 glasses of milk. There are no snacks in between, no desserts, no weekend cheat days.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Mabel addresses the obvious reaction most people have to this. She knows this menu sounds incredibly boring to the average modern consumer,
Sure.
but she completely flips the script on what the word boring actually means. She says, you know what else is boring? Being 103 years old and still being able to walk down the street, think clearly, and take care of your own home.
That's a great point.
And you know what she thinks is exciting? Being 60 years old and needing 12 different prescription medications just to manage your baseline bodily functions.
What's fascinating here is her broader historical critique of the diet industry. Mabel argues that the narrative insisting human bodies require 47 different types of foods, or exotic rainforest superfoods, is essentially a fabricated concept designed to drive commerce.
She points squarely back to the 1950s. She claims that scientists during that era simply decided fat was the primary enemy of the human heart without sufficient long-term proof.
Right.
So the public health message became, stop eating butter, stop eating eggs, stop eating beef. And she points out that those traditional foods were rapidly replaced on grocery store shelves with refined sugars, highly processed carbohydrates, and industrial vegetable oils.
It's worth noting that the lipid hypothesis of the 1950s, which linked saturated fat to heart disease, remains a cornerstone of modern cardiology, though nutritional science has certainly grown more nuanced about different types of fats.
Definitely.
But Mabel's observation about what filled the vacuum when traditional fats were demonized is a recognized phenomenon.
Yeah, the snack foods.
Right. She argues that the explosion of diabetes and heart disease correlates directly with that dietary shift. But instead of the food industry admitting they made a misstep, she says they doubled down.
Oh, big time.
They created an endless, profitable carousel of new dietary identities: keto, paleo, vegan, carnivore. From her vantage point, everyone simply has a book to sell, a 12-week program to push, or a proprietary supplement line to market.
She actually has a little centenarian support group to back up her theory that monotony is beneficial.
I love this part.
She talks about a close friend named George, who passed away at 101. For 60 consecutive years, George ate a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast and a tin of sardines for lunch.
That is dedication.
That was his entire culinary existence. Everyone in town thought he had lost his mind, but he outlived every single one of his critics.
Wow.
And her own husband, Robert, lived to be 95, eating 2 fried eggs and a piece of toast every single day for half a century. Whenever people asked Mabel if she was bored with her meals, she'd just laugh and say, bored? I'm alive. That's exciting enough.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Mabel is touching on a psychological concept that is deeply relevant to you, the listener. We are talking about decision fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
She isn't just utilizing this diet to preserve her physical health, she is actively preserving her cognitive energy. Consider the sheer volume of choices you are forced to make about food every single week.
It's overwhelming.
The stress of navigating the grocery store aisles, the time spent meal prepping, the mental math of tracking macronutrients on an app, every single one of those micro decisions drains a finite reserve of daily willpower. By eliminating all of that friction, Mabel is reclaiming a massive amount of cognitive space.
Space for what actually matters to her. She wakes up, she knows exactly what she's going to eat, she prepares it automatically, and she moves on with her day. It gives her the mental bandwidth to tend to her garden, time to sit and think, and the capacity to actually be present with the people around her. She observes that people today are drowning in grocery stores that stock 600 different types of breakfast cereal, using DNA-based diet apps to try and optimize biological processes that she believes simply don't need optimizing.
It is a profound perspective on finding freedom through limitation. By radically restricting her options, she actually makes the scope of her life infinitely larger. However, as we transition into the second half of her life philosophy, she introduces a rather heavy caveat to everything we have just discussed.
So, what does this all mean? Well, Mabel makes a very hard pivot in the interview. She looks right at the camera and says you could eat her exact 4 foods every single day for the rest of your life, but if your spirit is rotten, you are still going to get sick.
Yeah.
Food, she insists, is only half the battle.
She illustrates this point with a deeply tragic story about a former neighbor of hers named Walter.
Walter lived just down the street from Mabel. And by all modern standards, Walter did everything perfectly right. He read all the latest health literature. He ate an impeccably clean diet. He exercised vigorously every single day.
On paper, he was perfectly healthy.
Exactly. But Walter developed cancer and died at the age of 68. And Mabel makes a very bold claim here. She says the cancer didn't kill Walter.
What did?
She says what actually killed him was a 40-year grudge he harbored against his own brother over a petty inheritance dispute. He carried that anger around for 4 decades like a backpack full of rocks. As Mabel phrases it, the cancer was just the method. The bitterness is what actually eroded his physical body.
While we cannot medically validate the precise cause of Walter's illness, her metaphor speaks volumes about the physical toll of chronic stress.
It really does.
We know scientifically that carrying chronic anger elevates cortisol levels, increases systemic inflammation, and suppresses the immune system. You cannot out-eat the physiological damage of a nervous system that is constantly in a state of fight or flight.
No amount of broccoli is going to fix that.
Exactly. Mabel strongly advocates for forgiveness, but she frames it not as a moral high ground, but as an act of self-preservation. She says, you don't forgive people because they necessarily deserve it. You forgive them because you deserve peace. Her exact quote is, hate is a poison and you're the one drinking it.
She applies this harsh truth to her own life, too. She talks very candidly about the process of forgiving her mother, who she describes as having been a very cold, hard woman.
That couldn't have been easy.
No. Mabel admits she carried a quiet, burning anger about her childhood for decades. But when she finally made the conscious decision to forgive her mother, she knows that nothing changed about her mother's past actions.
Right, the past was the same.
What changed was the tremendous weight Mabel herself had been carrying. She says she physically felt lighter, as if a physical pressure had been lifted off her chest.
Achieving that emotional lightness is what allows her to focus on what she believes actually keeps a human being tethered to the earth, having a definitive purpose, and having a community of people. She is quick to point out that she doesn't wake up at 5:30 in the morning to hit the gym for a cardio session.
Not at all. She wakes up at 5:30 a.m. because she has a garden that needs tending. She has a neighbor whose fence she promised to help fix. She has a standing Tuesday afternoon phone call with her great-granddaughter. She has concrete, undeniable reasons to get out of bed.
Furthermore, she makes a very sharp distinction about the specific kind of human connections we require. She states that human beings simply aren't built to navigate a century of life alone. But you need real people.
Real people.
You do not need an audience of social media followers or an accumulation of digital likes on a screen. You need people who will physically sit in the room with you when you receive terrifying news. You need people who love you enough to tell you when you are behaving foolishly.
And most importantly, you need people who can help you laugh through the agonizing parts of life. Because Mabel is incredibly realistic, she doesn't pretend life is easy. She says if you live long enough, life is absolutely going to break your heart.
It's inevitable.
You are going to watch the people you love pass away. But she believes that if you can still find a way to laugh, you can survive the heartbreak. She shares this incredibly poignant story about the day immediately following her husband Robert's funeral.
Yeah, this part was moving.
They'd have been married for 68 years. She was sitting at her kitchen table, just sobbing uncontrollably. Her teenage granddaughter walked into the room and just froze, having no idea what to say to her grieving grandmother. So Mabel looked up through her tears and said, "He always told me I'd be completely lost without him. Turns out the old man was right."
Wow.
And they both started laughing. Then they cried. And then they just sat there and laughed some more.
That level of emotional resilience is staggering. But it leads directly into what I consider her most urgent warning to you, the listener. This raises an important question. How much of your own life are you currently deferring?
Yeah, that's the big one.
Mabel pleads with the audience to stop waiting for someday, because in her blunt estimation, someday simply does not exist.
She tells this heartbreaking story about a friend of hers named Betty, who she worked with at the telephone company back in the 1960s. Betty had spent 40 years talking about her grand plan to retire, move to the coast, and open a little seaside pie bakery.
Always planning for tomorrow.
Every single year, Betty would say, just 10 more years, then I'm finally going to start living. But Betty suffered a heart attack and died at 62,
Mm,
2 years before she could even collect her pension.
that's tragic.
She never made it to the coast. She never baked a single pie. She spent 4 entire decades doing nothing but waiting for permission to live. Mabel's warning is chillingly simple. Don't be Betty.
Mabel is also remarkably transparent about her own failures in this regard. Despite making it to 103, she has deep regrets. She says she wishes she could time travel back and shake her 30-year-old self to stop chasing corporate status and financial validation.
The things we think matter.
Exactly. She talks about the nights she brought lesson plans home to grade, entirely missing family dinners. She remembers skipping her daughter's dance recitals just to secure a slightly bigger paycheck and a meaningless pat on the back from a school administrator. Standing at the end of her life, she realizes none of that professional validation mattered. What matters is that she missed fleeting moments of her children's lives that she can never, ever get back.
She also shares a really tough, unresolved regret regarding her younger sister, Margaret. The two of them got into a petty, ridiculous argument in their 40s over absolutely nothing of substance, and their stubbornness led to them not speaking for 3 entire years.
3 years.
Before they could reconcile, Margaret died suddenly at the age of 53 from a brain aneurysm. Mabel never got the chance to apologize. She never got to look her sister in the eye and tell her she loved her. So her message to the listener is incredibly urgent. Whatever you need to say it right now, today. Do not wait for a someday that isn't promised to you.
It is a profoundly sobering reminder that extending your lifespan without actual presence and connection is a hollow victory. When we step back and look at all of this source material together, the controversial raw milk, the daily ground beef, the tragic stories of Betty and Margaret, we can begin to synthesize the core message Mabel is trying to impart.
Her secret isn't some elite biological life hack. It isn't a magic macronutrient ratio or an expensive hidden supplement harvested from the mountains. Mabel's entire philosophy is centered around a relentless, stubborn refusal to engage with the noise of modern optimization.
Well said.
If you distill a century of her life down, it boils down to 5 distinct rules. Eat real food, love your people fiercely, forgive your enemies for your own sake, find a daily purpose, and stop waiting for someday.
That perfectly encapsulates it. And for you listening, the practical takeaway here isn't that you need to go empty your fridge and immediately switch to a rigid diet of eggs, beef, potatoes, and raw milk. You absolutely do not have to adopt Mabel's specific restrictive menu.
Please don't, unless you really want to.
Right. But what you can adopt is her absolute refusal to overcomplicate your existence. You can choose to step off the endless, exhausting treadmill of revolving diet fads and the constant anxiety of optimization culture.
Because underneath the highly controversial diet is a desperate, genuine plea for us to actually live our lives while we still have the breath to do so. She believes the medical community can't explain her longevity because they are looking for complex, microscopic answers. But from her point of view, the secret has been right in front of us the entire time. Eat real food, cultivate real love, and practice real presence.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to carry with you as you go about your week.
If you had to choose just 4 simple foods and one single driving purpose for the rest of your life in order to completely eliminate decision fatigue, what would they be, and what would you finally have the mental space to achieve?
Something to mull over.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next deep dive.